Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Monday Minute. My name is Ken Freeman, and I am here to talk to you today about your donor ministry, a new way to think. You see, the problem is that most nonprofits don't have all the funding they need. Thus, they have to strive to raise the funds. Now, as the story goes, this is particularly true with Christian nonprofits. They have to work for months to build the momentum and planning for a major donor development program like an annual banquet or a walk-a-thon or so forth. Yet if they continue to do the things they have just learned over the past few years, perhaps what they learned even 10, 15 years ago as they took the job as center director, likely they are going to miss the mark, and the funds are certainly not going to be in your bank account. And this is why you need to learn a new way to think about what I call donor ministry. Now imagine a day when all of your nonprofit's financial needs are met. That's right, a day when committed donors understand how your operation is reaching to the lost and giving money to you so that you can do what you are called to do. That these people would respond to your telephone call or letter with comments like, "Oh, I'd be glad to help." Okay, roll over, hit the snooze button one more time, and enjoy that feeling just for a few more moments. In reality, you and I both know very well that when you drag yourself out of bed and go into the office, you're most likely to be faced with dozens of unmet needs. Wouldn't it be nice just once to focus on really doing more of the work of the nonprofit you manage with all of the bills paid and money in the bank? May I suggest that this should be a reality at some point. No, I haven't lost what's left of my mind. I really do think this is ultimately the biblical plan for God's mission. Remember, in the Bible it said, "Go ye into all the world and make disciples." Part of the mission is to go out and connect with other people. So why isn't it a reality for more of our nonprofits, especially Christian nonprofits? And why is it we have missed this fundamental point? You see, ultimately it comes down to a fundamental need to go make a friend. In the printed resource that I have for you to download today called Donor Ministry, A New Way to Think by Dan Miragon, Dan tells the story that he calls new to planned giving. And as the story goes, one key characteristic of a good planned giving officer is the ability to make friendships with total strangers. You know, we do it all the time with other donors of different types. You know, we do it with our volunteers. We do it with our staff. We do it with our friends at church. But how many of us feel comfortable going out and making friends with total strangers? Whether that trait comes naturally or whether it's something you have to learn to appreciate, it is the hallmark of a planned giving officer. In the printed report, I share the personal story of Dan Miragon of Dan Miragon Consulting that points to the fact that he was invited to attend a luncheon of his peers. He was amazed to discover a very important point. He learned something very valuable that day. The people that he was talking to seemed to share a common experience of learning. He says, "I found that many in the room had been in their planned giving role for some time. They had stories to tell, and I was hearing several things for the first time. First, I heard that there was hope. If our agency persevered and put the donor's interests first, gifts would come. Secondly, I learned that everyone had the same frustrations when they first started. Their peers back at the organization never understood them, but they always had to turn to outside sources for encouragement. Finally, I learned that these new friends were willing to share their donors' successes and failures with me. I could ask a seasoned veteran about an idea, and they would be glad to point me in the right direction. The value of those learning experiences has been seen over the years in several ways. In his work with the rescue mission and later as a consultant, he found that these friends that he made at this luncheon that he was going to when he felt very unsure of himself, feeling alone and feeling very isolated, inept at what he was about to do, then he found that they became a very valuable sounding board over the years. Another benefit was the ability to speak with credibility about how other organizations deal with problem gifts or environmental issues as a tool in helping organizations answer questions like, should we take this property, or how do you put a value on something something like this. So if you're new to planned giving, then welcome. You're involved in a service that no one else can offer, and that helps a donor match their interests with your organization and do it in a way where both parties win. It's a great field to be in, and you're not alone. There are many others in planned giving who are out there who need you and are willing to share the journey with you. Thus, I encourage every center director, every manager of a nonprofit, especially the Christian nonprofit, to get involved with the National Committee on Planned Giving, or the NCPC. They have chapters in most communities, as well as other associations like the Association of Fundraising Professionals. You will make valuable new friendships that will benefit your nonprofit and possibly last your entire career as a leader. Once you know that future donations come from future friends, what would then be the most logical next step? We don't make friends just to drive funding up, but it is important to know that our nonprofit services and products can help enrich our friends and acquaintances, and if we truly value what we do and what we offer, it is only natural that we want to bring these things to everyone we meet. Attending networking events is probably the most natural venue for building future donor relationships. But don't limit yourself to scheduled network events. In your day-to-day life, don't forget to present your nonprofit opportunity to give to everyone you meet. You know, I once gained 2 donors while standing in line at a grocery store. I can't tell you how many times just how my wife has had the opportunity to minister to people just taking our grandson to McDonald's. Conversation is your key to establishing these new relationships with total strangers that can translate into new clients, into new volunteers, that can translate into new donors. Just be open and engaging in all of your interactions. But once you have established those relationships, the real work begins. Relationships that are neglected or taken for granted will wither or die. Follow-up is critically important. Email and telephone can be the lifeblood of nurturing these relationships. Remember birthdays and anniversaries and important events. As you grow your organization, you will discover that your first ventures into the networking world will train you for the hard work of relationship marketing and outsourcing the follow-up functions, which will save you a lot of time in keeping you current and thorough in your own follow-up efforts. And of course, the most important part of all of this is to make that initial connection and grow it into a lasting, sustainable relationship. Any established nonprofit has at its roots a long-term, loyal base of clients and donors who formed the foundation of that nonprofit's growth. When you are just starting out, it is important to keep the big picture in mind. And it is that small customer who needs your services every quarter that can become a bi-weekly account if nurtured, or a weekly account if valued correctly. Just be willing to do the initial legwork, go out and make some friends. Outsource many of the time-consuming follow-up activities as you can, and then coordinate that effort into a well-rounded relationship marketing strategy. If you need help or more ideas, then please consult Dan Merrigan of Dan Merrigan Associates. I give you the link in the printed report, so just go ahead and type your name and email in the form below and let me send you this free report. Donor Ministry, Thinking a New Way to Think. Till this time next week, keep up the good work you're doing. You are making a difference, and the other side just can't stand it. You've been listening to the Monday Minute, and this is Ken saying I can't wait to meet with you again next week. Tell a friend, won't you, about the Monday Minute, and let's meet next week for another look at how to maximize your center.